so that we have it for people who aren't able to join us tonight. All right, so we're gonna get started. Tonight's topic is having fun at project meetings. So hopefully all of you are here for that. And if not, then thanks for joining us anyways. But our goal tonight is to talk a little about project meetings and what you can do to make them more fun or maybe more interactive, maybe things you've already thought about, and hopefully you can share your ideas in the chat box or via your microphone, or maybe things you've never thought about. So the first thing that we need to do is to start by holding project meetings. So if you're not doing that, that would be the place to start. If you're not actually having some type of project meetings, having them would be a great way to make sure that they're fun. So what is an actual project meeting? It would be learning activities that look at the project area. So this doesn't mean having a 6-hour class on Saturday once before the fair to make sure you have your boards ready for the fair, that your animals clipped, that kind of thing. It's more about a total learning experience over a longer period of time. It's also going to build on skills that they may already have, or it's going to teach them new skills. And that's really where we can use some of our older members or people who have expertise in this area. So being a project leader doesn't mean that you actually have to be an expert. It means that you have to be able to find the resources and prepare those resources to help young people succeed in that project. If you look at research or other states who have guidelines for project meetings, it's suggested that in order for a young person to learn, that you have at least 6 hours of learning experiences at 6 different times. So if you hold a meeting just one Saturday in June so that you're ready to show your pig at the fair, or you're ready to get your shooting sports kneeling roll done, it's not really going to be effective in having a learning experience. It needs to be over a longer period of time for at least 6 different times an hour each time.
Let me feel.
Okay, somebody doesn't have their microphone muted, and I've been trying to mute you guys, so I'm not sure who you are, but we can hear you talking. So be sure to mute your mic. If you're looking how to do that, it's the bottom as you scroll down on the left-hand side. So mute all. There you go. So you're all muted now. You'll need to unmute yourself if you want to talk. So, okay, and the last one is that this can be offered at different levels. So if you're thinking, hey, I'm a project leader, I lead the foods in my county, but I only have one kid and nobody comes, then a thing you can do is say, hey, I'm willing to offer this to a couple different clubs, or I'm willing to offer this as a county-wide project. So if you're feeling that you're putting a lot of effort in, you're maybe not getting out what you're putting into it, know that there's some ways you can invite additional kids besides just the one in your clubs to come. For instance, my children are part of the Albany County 4-H Club, so Albany County 4-H program, and our club doesn't have a lot of project meetings, but we do go to cake decorating once a month, we go to sewing once a month, because those leaders have chosen to offer it to anybody in the county, and there's usually 10 or 12 kids, which is a great number to have there. So some things to think about when you're thinking about project meetings is let's make sure that they're happening, and that would be a great way to at least get started to make sure that they're fun. So as you set the stage, you need to really think about the environment you're creating with your project meetings. And I think a great way to focus on that is to really look at what's written in our new policies and guidelines. If you haven't had a chance to check them out, they're on our website. But some of the things that we're doing in there is we actually defined what the youth experience is. As a 4-H program, we've defined what we want young people to get out of our program. And those things are first, the opportunity to set goals, keep records, and reflect on your learning in a project area. So as a project leader, this is definitely something that you can work on, and we'll talk a little bit more about how to make that happen. The second thing is that we want to make sure that our young person is provided with a caring adult to support them and develop life skills through project work. So this is definitely something we hope that you're working on. So hopefully you're all those caring adults that can be part of that experience for a young person. We want them to have opportunities for hands-on learning experiences, which can happen during a project meeting. And we want them to have a place to display their learning in one or more project areas. So that would be probably a fair. There may be other options for that too. And the last thing is we want to give them opportunities to use the skills learned at their club and project work at a county level, regional level, state level, national level, and possibly international level. So how this may work is getting involved with contest events, maybe showing their work at a Kiwanis Club meeting, or maybe they do a demonstration at the library to get kids engaged in the project that they're at. So just finding opportunities for them to show the skills they learned, maybe besides just the fair, and take that to the next level. And if you are looking to figure out what some of those opportunities are, if you weren't here and joining us last month, there's a great we did this last month exactly on opportunities in the Wyoming 4-H program. So be sure to watch that to look for some of those opportunities and where they exist. In addition to defining the youth experience, it also talks about the values that we have as part of the Wyoming 4-H program. So thinking about this as you're planning your project meetings would be great. And the values that we listed are to provide opportunities for experiential learning, which means hands-on learning where you reflect in the process, and life skill development through hands-on project work in members' areas of interest. That's definitely what our project meetings are for. And helping people see themselves as unique, resilient, lifelong learners who actively participate in their own future, setting goals and practicing self-determination. So that's that goal setting option again. Some of the other values are to create project activities that have a sense of belonging. And that means having an inclusive environment, contributing to a team effort, and having a positive relationship with a caring adult. So you see some themes happening here. If you want to learn more about belonging, our first training that we did was on belonging, so that's also something you can watch. We're looking for independence, which can happen at project meetings by having self-directed processes and relating them to real-life experiences, having leadership opportunities, and then generosity, giving back through community service, and sharing your experience with younger members. So we already talked about how we can engage our older members to do that. And then mastery, which is really part of our project learning, where we develop specific knowledge with the guidance of our project leaders. So you can see that, and then opportunities to run effective meetings, which maybe isn't quite related to project work, but you can see that your project meetings really play a huge part in providing youth experience that's defined in our policies and reaching the values that are defined in our policies. So what can you do at your first project meeting? How do you get started? First, hold them, invite all the kids to come. I think it's really difficult sometimes to pick the best time for everyone. So I think as a project leader, the most important thing is to pick the best time for you. And if people can't make it, I think that's the opportunity to invite those multiple clubs or a lot of people to come together to know that your time is valuable, and we definitely value that. So please know that we want to make sure that whatever you're doing is convenient for you, first and foremost, and then we can figure out how to engage our children as we move on. So what can you do to get started? Have some time at the beginning of each meeting to get to know each other, so that the kids feel comfortable around each other and they're probably more willing to share and engage in the learning that you're going to do. How that can happen is you could have some icebreaker games that you could make project related. So I have a couple ideas, but if you've done any of these, you can feel free to put them in the chat box or tell us about them. You can play the game Two Truths and a Lie, which is where you have every kid tell 2 truths about themselves and 1 thing that's not true, and then they have to try to guess what they are. And you can make them related to your project. Like if your project's shooting sports, maybe they could talk about the scores they've gotten or what things they shoot or things that they've done related to shooting sports, and 2 of them can be true and 1 of them can be a lie. It's a great way for people to get to know each other. Sometimes it gets kind of funny depending on what you say. So there's that as one idea. Another idea is called Passport on Your Head. And this is one of my favorite games, so I think it's kind of fun. But what you do is you have your students put a piece of paper on their head, and then you tell them to basically draw their face. So you'd say, okay, everybody draw your head, draw a circle to make your head. Then they draw this circle on their head. And then you'd be like, okay, next you need to draw your eyes. And so they try to draw their eyes, their nose, their mouth. You can put hair, ears, that kind of thing. And then what happens is they have this really silly drawing. And I always tell them that this is their passport to join your project group. And so they're going to use this, and they can maybe tell something about themselves using this. And then they can introduce themselves to each other. And it's kind of a fun way to get them giggly and get them excited about what you're doing, and talk about it being a passport to get them to the next level or to learn some of your project areas. You can always play, this is the toilet paper M&M game, card game, Starburst, whatever you want to use, but where kids pick like a handful of M&Ms or a couple of Starburst or jelly beans or squares of toilet paper, maybe a card out of a deck, and they have to tell you something. It could be project related about every single M&M they pick, or maybe if they pick a green M&M, they have to do a certain, you can have a criteria, like for every green M&M, you need to tell us 1 thing that you've done related to this project. Every red M&M, you need to tell us about something that your family does related to this project. So you can just have them kind of share things about themselves based on how many items they pick. And so some kids will take a lot, some kids will take very few, and it kind of gets them talking or started. Does anybody else have any other ideas that they have done for some icebreaker games that have been successful in project areas or at your club meetings? You can put them in the chat box or feel free to talk about them. know it's kind of hard to put everybody on the spot, but I think these are just some easy ways. You can also just Google icebreaker games and try to think of ways to incorporate them into project learning or making them project related. So you may go to your club meeting and there's a really cool game they play, and then figure out how to make that maybe the basis or the beginning of your project meeting. The next thing I want to do is understand why our kids are there. Why are they enrolled in the project, and in turn, why did they come to this meeting? So the first thing you can do to do that is you can actually work to set some goals to help them understand why they're there. One of my favorite ways to do this is called, well, I call it Post-it notes. And so what you do is you say, why did you choose to enroll this project? Or why did you come to this meeting? Or what's your favorite thing about sewing, or whatever it is? And kids can write an idea in a Post-it note, and you can kind of put them up on a board so they can see each other's ideas. And then you can work to group them together, and you can figure out why the kids actually chose to be part of that project. So like I said, you can ask, why'd you take this project? Maybe what'd you hope to learn? What I like most about the project, whatever it happens to be. So those are an easy way for you to set some goals, and then your goals can be around those Post-it notes. So why did I take this project? Well, I took the vet science project because I have a cat at home and I want to learn why it's sick. And so then one of the things you may do during your project, a goal they may set is to learn the normal signs of an animal so I know when my cat is sick. And so you've already just set a goal by having that young person share why they took that project. So it's a really easy way and very non-evasive way to make kids set goals without having to sit down and say, write a goal. It's a way for you to kind of have them just share why they chose to take that project. Another one is there's a goal setting tool. Hopefully you can see this. It's kind of small, but I put the link here that if you want to look at the actual sheet, you can. But here's a way to really maybe set some more concrete goals. And making sure that as you write goals that you think about an action, a result, and a timetable. So how will you do something? What are you going to do? And then when are you going to get it done? And so this has some examples. I want to learn to make 2 kinds of cookies, and then they're going to do that by Christmas. I want to give 2 demonstrations, and I'm going to do that by June 1st. And so this is really, I think using that kind of a chart makes it really easy for kids to be able to set some goals. On the bottom, if you can't read it, the one thing that I think you always have to remember is to set a control test. So do they control the outcome? You'll always see that young people write, I want to win champion at the county fair. So kids can work really super hard to win champion at the county fair, but if that judge doesn't choose them and doesn't like the way their animal looks at the time it happens, then they don't control that. So that's not a very good goal. In turn, it may be, I want to learn how to best feed my animal so that it gains enough weight by fair. That might be a better goal because you're the one who can control that. But for winning or having a choice that someone else makes, it's not a very good goal. And so helping kids understand that, and it's more about the overall learning experience than the end results. How do we set goals related to that too? So all of this stuff this entire presentation will be referenced online, so you can get that link if you're looking for it. It's actually 4 pages of goal setting, but I pulled out the thing that I thought was most important related to our discussion. So then getting to the nitty gritty of how to have fun at project meetings, the other thing we need to really focus on is doing activities. So some of the activities that you can do at project meetings that you may be doing already or you may never thought about, and we'll go through these and kind of talk about what they look like. The first is a skill-a-thon station or skill-a-thon stations, doing demonstrations, participating in project judging, doing a quiz bowl, doing games or competitions, having some skill practice, community service, field trips, or guest speakers. And I just noticed that someone's writing on the PowerPoint. I don't know how that's happening, so I apologize for that. So what does that look like? The first is a skill-a-thon station. So what is a skill-a-thon? This is just a lot of words, but basically what a skill-a-thon is, it's stations that are set up that have hands-on learning. Usually they are led by facilitators at each station, but that doesn't always have to happen depending on the age and the kind of skill-a-thon stations you're doing. But they're basically mini learning opportunities where kids can kind of go and do things themselves. And then adults or older members can provide them with some hints if things aren't going well. So they can participate, and then as maybe things aren't working, they can give them hints to help them complete the task. And this can be done as individuals or as teams. And you'll find out that a lot of skill-a-thons have competitions beyond just doing that. But for me, the skill-a-thon is thinking outside the box. Like we have a livestock skill-a-thon, we have a dog skill-a-thon, but what kind of skill-a-thon stations can we do with clothing or rockets or things like that? So each station includes a learn by doing activity, a place where members can go and visit a series of learning stations. And if you're doing this at a project meeting, it may just be 1 or 2 stations. It may not be a series. So it kind of just depends on what's working for you. There's supposed to be a facilitator at each station, but like I said, if you don't have that kind of help, I still think you can do these at your project meetings. And then participants rotate to each station to perform the task that's given. And they test their knowledge and ability before they receive help from someone else. And if they falter, the member can receive suggestions from the facilitator. So I want to give you a few, and so as you think about this, think about the projects you're involved in and what are some skill-a-thon stations that you might be able to do as part of the projects you're involved in. So I thought about that for our overall project scheme. These are some ideas that I came up with. So maybe for a skill-a-thon station, you could have someone identify the parts of something. So maybe you're going to identify the parts of a rocket if you're doing aerospace. If you're doing photography, they could identify the parts of a camera. Animals is super easy. They can identify the parts of animals. So identifying anything within your project, maybe the parts of a gun, the parts of a sewing machine, are different ways that they could go around and kind of learn the things that they're supposed to be working with. You could have them actually build something. So for aerospace, you can have them build a rocket, build a paper airplane, build a robot, build a circuit for electricity. And maybe using tools correctly. So how do I use a scissors, or what scissors do I use to cut this kind of material? How do I use the cake decorating tips to make different types of leaves or writing or whatever it happens to be? How do I give a shot? And I know a lot of times we use like bananas or oranges to do those things. There might be the opportunity to do some matching items. So what kind of feed is this? And so I have a list of feeds and I have to match them compared to what it looks like. Type of fabric I might use for my sewing, types of equipment I might use when I'm doing shooting sports or feeding animals, or what kind of breeds are there for animals. Measuring, that could be woodworking or foods related. So just those are the different kinds of stations you can put around at your different project meetings. And you can actually use skill-a-thon stations to introduce projects to people in different clubs. So if you have cake decorating, you really want to get some more kids involved, what a great way to set up a skill-a-thon station at your club meeting and have young people practice so they can see what it's all about, and then they can maybe think that they want to do something themselves. So for a workshop I did last week in San Diego with some leaders, I actually made some skill-a-thon stations, and I want to share them with you. It didn't take me very long, and they were directly actually from some of the stuff that you have at your office in our curriculum. So here is a skill-a-thon station for cats. I'm trying to see if I can figure out how to get that annotation off there. So just give me 1 second here. There we go. Okay. So here's the skill-a-thon station for cats. So basically it's, can you find the 6 things in this picture that might harm your cat? And then can you think of other cat hazards? So the kids could go to this, read this, look for them, write them down, or if you actually had this printed, they could circle them. They could share it with each other. If they couldn't get it, an adult could help them. Here's a rocket one. Check out the pictures of the rockets below. Find the nose cone, fins, and body tube in each one. And then I had a table with Hershey Kisses, little gummies, marshmallows, and toothpicks. And they made their own rocket on a piece of paper with a 3-dimensional one, and they labeled with arrows. The Hershey Kiss was the nose cone, the gummy was the fins to make it, and then the marshmallows made the tube. And so it's kind of a cool way for them to eat their food and learn something about rockets. For the health project, I made this one. It's a pretty easy one too. It says stretching muscles increases your flexibility. Try to stretch and identify it fits your legs, neck, spine. It should say spine, it's a spine. Legs, chest, arms, or shoulders. And so it kind of gets them interacting, and that's one for health. For those of you who are in animal ones, super easy. Ohio State makes these awesome learning lab kits. They're pretty pricey, but I know that the state of Wyoming owns one of every animal, and we do allow counties to like check them out or rent them. They're currently spread all over the state. So if you know that you're doing an animal project and you want to set up some skill-a-thon stations, they're already done for you. So if you look at this picture, you can see that there's one on ear notching. There's usually one on reading a label, breed identification, part ID. But basically all of the stuff to do it is included with this kit. And you just show up and you can put the different stations out and kids can wander around them. I think there's meat cuts is one. So it kind of is a cool way to not even have to work very hard, and you're able to make those happen. So there's swine, dogs, goats, horses, beef, sheep, all of the major. I think there's even a dog and a cat one. And like I said, we own them here at the state 4-H office. Currently they're checked out all over the state, and a lot of counties actually own them. So it's an easy way to set up skill-a-thon stations related to animal projects. So If you're looking for more on that, feel free to talk to your county educator. You can email me and we can help you find out where those are to use at a project meeting or a club meeting that you're having. Are there any questions or ideas for skill-a-thon stations within the projects that you're in or related to the things that we just looked at? Okay, great. Usually it's because I talk really fast, so you don't have time to think about anything while I'm going on, but hopefully it gives you some ideas to start thinking about ways you can make that happen. And it's really fun for kids with this interaction. They get to work on their own and really solve some problems. The next thing is hopefully something we're already doing in 4-H. It's pretty common, but demonstrations. So these are used to show and tell someone how to do something. The different parts of the demonstration is to introduce what you're doing, and that usually involves showing a finished product. So if you're talking about how to make a cheesecake or something for your foods project, hopefully you have one done at the beginning so people can see what it looks like. Then the body, where you actually go through the steps of what that looks like to complete the task, and then the conclusion basically saying what you just covered. And so at your project meetings, you may be wondering who's the person that's going to make these demonstrations. So you can actually assign members different tasks. So if you're doing sewing, maybe one member can work on sewing a straight seam or cutting out a pattern, or choosing a pattern size, or the different things that happen within the beginning of a sewing project. So members can share things they already knew. So if they were in sewing last year, it's maybe a good way for them to refresh their memory and talk about other things to younger members, or you can just assign them tasks and then they can do some research at home on their own to figure out what that looks like. You can also here use your older or teen leaders to learn about something and then give a demonstration for new and younger members at your next meeting. Gives them some type of value and worth in your meeting. So if you have a lot of younger members, we tend to forget about our teens, and this is a great way to get them active and involved. And then you as a leader can do the demonstration, not a problem, or you can invite in a guest speaker to do those demonstrations. So if you want to talk about shots for vet science or cats or dogs or whatever animal project you're on, you're just not really comfortable with giving shots, invite the local vet in, or a vet tech, or maybe an older teen who does that. Maybe you want to talk about AI or something. Invite people in who understand that, people who are experts, because they're usually willing to come to your project meetings. All right, any questions about demonstrations? This, like skill-a-thons, are a great way to get other members involved. So if you have members share what they learned at their last project meeting, it might get other people sparked into joining your project that way also. The next one is judging classes. So we're all really familiar with judging classes as far as they relate to animals. We hear about livestock judging, horse judging, but you can judge in just about any project. Judging is making a decision and telling why you made it. It teaches members to appreciate standards and observe closely and develop their reasoning. It's also really good as you create fair projects to think about this, because then they can think about what standards they're trying to meet as they take pictures or as they make a visual arts project. What kind of things would make this the best compared to other things that may be shown or things that I've done in the past? Successful judging depends on the knowledge of the product that you have, also your understanding of the criteria or standards for the project, and your ability to compare them to other standards and then give oral reasons. So how do you get started creating a judging class? The first thing is, early in the project, you're probably going to discuss standards, like what are we looking for? When we decorate cakes, what is the end product that we want to result? When we do foods, what is it going to taste like? When we do photos, what kind of composition are we looking for? So you're really creating that judging class right from the beginning by talking about the end result of what you want as part of that project. So 4-H judging classes are usually based on 4 products. Products are designated by letters A, B, C, D, or by numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. And then members are asked to compare based on the situation that they're giving. So let me show you a couple of judging classes that I've created based on some projects we have. So the first one I did was how cats communicate. So if you see here, the situation is that you want to know what your cat is telling you based on how they act. And so this is part of one of the lessons in the cat curriculum. But when you look at these pictures, which cat do you think is most approachable to least approachable? So they can put them in order, and then they can explain to you why they made that decision. Because I created this one, there's no rubric or no right answer. I mean, I have an idea of what I think it is, but I also think part of this is that decision-making process of what's best to worst or best to least, and having them put that in order and think through that, and that maybe is the success. Maybe it's not getting it right, but it's that ability to talk through that. Because to me, D or C could both be the most approachable, but in turn, I would have put D because it's not sleeping and you don't know what's going to happen when you touch the cat that's sleeping. The state of Missouri actually has developed some judging classes online that you can copy super easily. So if you go to the Missouri 4-H website, this is where I got that one. This is on cake decorating. So they basically give you, literally, you can print this out in 5 seconds. They give you a situation. So this one is about, if you can't read it, it basically says like which stand would be best to transport a cake to fair from best to worst. And then they give you the answers and also an age suggestion. So they're saying that the best one is C because it'd be easy to carry and sturdy, and the worst one is A because it could bend easily and not be sturdiest for carrying a cake. So it gives you the answers, and you can actually lay these out in front of kids and help them get through that situation. So whatever it is you're trying to teach that week, you may make that into a judging class at the beginning so they can talk about standards. This is another one that we made based on some of the curriculum, and so it basically is, you have an older dog and it's having trouble maintaining its weight. So which feed would you feed them? And here, this one is a little, because you didn't talk about it ahead of time, it actually tells you that you're looking for the feed that's highest in fat, fiber, and protein. And these are just labels I pulled from the internet. So you could actually have kids bring in their food labels and you could judge them based on the ones that they have at their house on whatever works. But those are 3 examples of ways that you can incorporate judging classes into your project meetings. If you're doing livestock judging, horse judging, those kind of things are much easier because I think that that's an established kind of judging, but there's ways definitely to think about judging related to any project that we have in the 4-H program. Any questions about judging classes or ideas that you want to share related to that? Okay. Great, and you can always share at any time, so feel free to type or let us know what you're thinking. The next one we talked about is Quiz Bowl. So the great thing about Quiz Bowl is they're somewhat competitive and kids kind of like competition. Not every kid, but most kids in 4-H for some reason tend to like competition. They can help teach any subject area, and they actually develop great life skills because they have to do critical thinking, decision making, communicating, and things like that. And for the most part, you'll find that they're pretty easy to set up. So how do you get started with this one? Well, the first thing you want to do is develop a bank of questions based on what you want to learn. So you can develop them yourselves, or you can actually have the members create questions throughout the year. So maybe at every meeting, you have them write down 3 questions at the end of the meeting that you're going to put into a hopper to use later. Or like I said, you could develop the questions ahead of time to get them kind of energized about what they're going to learn that month. So buzzers make it fun, and sometimes buzzers are super expensive. A lot of your extension offices may have a set of buzzers, but these are actually super cheap buzzers that you could probably buy with some club money that they might let you, or maybe you just want to set at home to have family competitions, but they're called egg spurt buzzers, EGG. I have a bit of a Wisconsin accent, so I have to spell that out. If you get the cordless ones like are shown here, they're about $90, which sounds terrible, but if you ask your club, they may be willing to do that just to have them at their club. You could do these kind of things at club meetings too, just for fun. Or they have ones with wires that attach, so you don't have as much flexibility to maybe make as big of a room of people, but those are only $45. So it's a pretty cheap way to get some buzzers to use. So you could do this in shooting sports, you could do this in foods, vet science, livestock. We have quiz bowls that are currently competitions in horses and livestock that you can enter, but in turn, this is a great way to make it part of your entire project meeting. I also think these are fun to do at club meetings, and this is another way to generate excitement around projects by having every kid in your club write 3 or 4 questions related to their project that they're enrolled in, and then you can kind of share knowledge with everybody. It's kind of an easy, fun way to get things started. So kids will write the question, and then write the answer, or maybe they write down 4 answers, and you have to pick A, B, and C depending on how hard the question is. So quiz bowls, that's pretty much easy, something easy that you can do pretty easily. So the other ones I'm just going to kind of discuss in a very brief manner, but you can do games or competitions. So in some of the curriculum, you can find this, or you can think about matching games like turning over cards. You can put names on people's, or like project things on people's back. Like if you're doing cooking, you can put a whisk or spatula on their back, and they have to go around and ask yes or no questions and try to figure out what's on their back. And there's just kind of fun things that you can do based on that. And you'll find that some of the curriculum that we offer has a lot of those listed already. Of course, what we're really used to doing in project meetings is skill practice. So that's the shooting at targets, making cakes, any of those things that we're sewing, making a visual arts project, taking photos. Those are all skill practice. So that's pretty common in project areas, but sometimes it's nice to break away from that continuous same thing we're doing and do something different. We talked about generosity being one of the values we have, and so you can always do community service. So if you're in cake decorating, you could always make some cupcakes to donate to the local food pantry if your food pantry accepts baked goods, or you could take them to the nursing home. Even like shooting sports, you could clean up places, or you could make little tray favors for people using shotgun shells or something. I mean, you can be really creative with this, and that way it gives the kids an outlet who may want to look for other things to do besides the things that you're doing every week. Taking field trips is great, and they may be as simple as, going to the grocery store to look at different types of meat, or dog food labels, heading to your local pet store to look at dog food labels. You could go to the vet and see what their facilities look like, or a dog groomer in your area. So don't make it so elaborate that it's not something you can do. It could be very simple, and something that's maybe even your next door neighbor has this really cool collection of something that you're doing. Maybe they used to knit and they have all these things in it, or they are quilters and they want to show you all their quilts. Something as simple as getting kids out to meet other people. It not only is fun, but it can increase their life skills of communication and stepping outside their comfort zone. Invite guest speakers, and we talked about that already. Feel free to invite anybody and everybody in who has some type of, as long as you think they're safe, that has some type of ability to share something about the project area that you're part of. If you have access to people who maybe compete shooting sports at a higher level, invite them in. If you have somebody who fits animals for a living, you can invite them in to talk. These are great things to do when you're not able to do those skills practices. Bringing them in when maybe the weather is bad or something, and having them as a backup, or even parents who are doing things related, or their job is related to your project. Guest speakers are a great way for you to broaden what you're doing and make you not the only person that kids have to listen to. So for those of you who are project leaders, do you have other ideas of things that you've done to make your project meetings fun, or things that may have sparked as we've been talking about this for the past 40 minutes? Feel free to write any of them in the chat box if you can think of anything, because I think it's always good to share the things that have worked successfully in your counties. I've tried a lot of these with the projects that I've led, but I always think it's good to have other people who have some experience tell me about things that have worked in your county. So you may be thinking, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming, and this is just, you've been talking about a lot of things and I don't even know where to start. So the good news is that for every project that exists in the state of Wyoming, we have a set curriculum that we suggest that you use in order to make that project happen. So if you're looking to figure out what those are, if you go to this website up here, this 4-H projects website, you'll find the Wyoming Project Guide. And it basically gives you every single project and what the prescribed curriculum for that project is. In addition, every single county in the state of Wyoming should have a copy of all the books that are listed here. And if they don't, they can call us and we can get that. So we provide one copy to every county so you can look through them, get some ideas, decide if you want to purchase it. Each book is about $5, and it says on here exactly where you order them from. Most of them are from the 4-H Mall. If not, we've gotten some of our curriculum from Ohio, Nebraska, Purdue has some good curriculum. So these are great ways to get started in what you're doing. So if you look, here's the ones that are listed for aerospace. And then I just blew up the little one that's listed for beef. So the beef curriculum has Bite into Beef. Here's the beef. These are usually levels that you build on. Leading the Charge, and then the Helper's Guide, which has activities that you can use in those skill-a-thon stations, things like that for all levels. And then Beef one actually has an extra one called Exploring Beef Health and Husbandry, which is more of the technical stuff if you want to create some of your own lessons related to beef that maybe you want to get a little bit more in depth. So that one has some more in-depth information. So what does it look like? This is from the website, but like I said, every project has this. You'll see they have 3 levels, usually beginner, intermediate, and advanced level, and then the Helper's Guide, which kind of ties them all together. And this is the curriculum from the 4-H Mall. So inside, if you open it up, it's going to basically have lesson plans. So this is the first chapter of the Beginning Beef project, and hopefully you can see it, but the life skill that's here is making decisions. They actually have educational standards, so if you're homeschooling, this is a great way to kind of meet those. If not, it definitely shows that these things are related to the stuff that's happening. And then it has success indicators. So how do we show that we've been successful? And so this one is about breeds. So you could either use this activity directly from the book, or in turn, you could create your own one based on other things that you've done. But, and then also you could take this even further by having maybe the kids create a poster about their favorite breed and bring it to the next meeting. But it kind of gives you a way to introduce those and tells you about some of the lessons you might want to teach about. So if you're having trouble identifying what those might be, this might be a great place for you to get started. So then it goes on. So this is the same lesson. It's the second part. So this one is called Barn Talk, but it's ways for you to go beyond just the doing part and really help kids to focus and in on what they're doing. So which breeds are popular in your area and why do you think that is? And then you can talk about efficiency, things like that. And then it has beef it up, so things you can do afterwards. And all of the books look pretty similar, but these are like homework assignments or ways you can have kids come back and talk about the lesson that they learned. And see here, it even talks about a skill-a-thon. Youth identify breeds of cattle in a skill-a-thon event. So that's something that you could do at your club meeting. So I just wanted to give you a couple other ones. This is the second lesson, and it's about breed parts. So you can use this one, or you could even make someone into a steer, or you could play like pin the tail on the donkey and have this up and have them stick it on the wall. Lots of ways that you could do the same lesson, but at least it gives you an idea of what the lesson is, and then you can choose to make it more your own as you create what works for you and what might be more fun. So same things here. There's a word find where you can find all these different types of breeds and then talking about what you did. So that's just kind of a way for you to see how you can use the curriculum. And like I said, there's curriculum for every single project that exists. And so all of this can help you to kind of get the juices flowing to help figure out how to do skill-a-thon, how do I do judging class, what kind of things are involved. And so a lot of the ones I showed you were directly taken from the different curriculum that we have. So just to, I got a chat from someone just to kind of tell what they've been using that works really well is using older members as the leaders to assist younger ones and give ownership to what they've learned. And I definitely think that's great. We need to figure out how to keep our older members involved. So even giving them some of this curriculum and say, hey, can you create a cool lesson next month that's about breeds? You know, if they have a responsibility and it's going to actually help them, I think that could happen. So some other resources to help you in addition to the curriculum is we're currently working on creating project learning sheets for all the projects in the Wyoming 4-H program. We're about halfway done, and some of these are available online, and they all will be within the next 5 to 6 months, which is a long time, but it takes me a while to get all of them done. They look like this. So this is the cake decorating one. They're all going to look very similar. They're a great way to get new members involved and to figure out things you can do. So if you look, we have what's in the beginning curriculum, the starting out, the learning more, and then what can you do going further, kind of helping members understand what kind of things are going to be covered as they advance in the project. And then the back side has some other ideas for you. So it says take it further. What kind of workshops, tours, guest speakers, things can I do that's even more than just going to my project meeting? So they can participate in the cake decorating contest at Showcase Showdown, or they could visit a professional decorator to get new ideas, attend a wedding cake consultation. These are all things that you could have them do. And also on every project sheet, it's going to give ways of things you can do for communication, things you can do for citizenship. So those are going to be more like the community service, generosity concepts, or things you can do for leadership. And then it's going to have a whole list of exhibits you can take to the fair. So we're not just decorating a cake. There's a whole bunch of other things that we can do related to cake decorating. So that's one. Here's the project learning sheet for crocheting. So same concepts, you know, how do I take crocheting further? What can I do for communication? All that kind of stuff. So that's kind of a fun way for you to think outside the box if you're kind of blocked for what you do. As we work to complete these, if you're looking for some of them, there's other states who have them already completed. Not every state has like range management and some of the projects that are more Wyoming specifics. There aren't those for this, but you can definitely do some searches. Michigan has some great ones. Missouri came out with them first, so there's a little bit simpler. California has some, but you can do some searches on their websites to look for those, or feel free to email me and we can go over how this works too. So another idea that came in the chat box was for the swine project, they took a trip to their local butcher to see a pig carcass and discuss the different parts. And then they also cooked a meal with pork, which I think that's really great to see the beginning to the end of your project and really understanding that it's a total learning experience. So I think that's a great way to reflect on the fact that we talked at the beginning. It's not just getting the pig ready for the fair, but it's that long-term learning experience from beginning to end. So thanks for sharing that. All right. And of course, you can use the internet, but I will tell you to be careful. The internet's a great tool for figuring out projects to make for the fair. So I did a Pinterest search on cool swine projects, and here's what I came up with. Look at all these cool things you can do. Somebody made the pig's digestive tract using clay. How cool is that? Or they did a 3-dimensional pig and labeled the parts using paper mache. Here's a PVC water pipe feeder. They made an art project with their pig. They took the hide, I don't think that's a pig, I think that might be a steer, but they took the hide of one of their animals and made a buckle thing to put your buckles in. And here they made an organizer and feeder for their pen at the fair. So Pinterest is a great way for you to get the end result ideas or for you to supplement the stuff that you're already learning. So if you're learning about the digestive tract, you could use the digestive tract pig to help enforce that, but you always want to make sure that you're using research-based or information that you know is true, not just using, Pinterest to find all your information. So some of my guides to that are to use land-grant universities. Those would be other 4-H programs in other states to provide research-based information when you're gathering your materials to teach. So if you want to teach about swine, maybe search other 4-H programs who maybe have higher resources to help write curriculum or get things ready. Or you can use recognized breed associations or other reputable sources, but you don't just want to Google it and know that you're not necessarily giving great information to people. So really think about that as you search the internet. Pinterest and Etsy, I don't know if anyone's used Etsy, but it's a way to, I think it's ETSY, so sorry for that. Etsy is a way for you, it's a place where people sell craft items that are homemade, but it's a really good way to gain new ideas for home environment, your visual arts projects, some of your maybe even shooting sports. If you're going to make some decorative wildlife hunting projects, you can really look for some of your static exhibit ideas on those 2 sites. But once again, I want to reiterate that we want to really make sure that we're providing our young people with the best and most current information that someone has really looked over to make sure it's correct. So that's why land grants or other, which means other 4-H programs are great places to start. So that is my last slide. I just want to open it up to questions and really let you know that I'm more than willing. A lot of this stuff is things that I've dealt with on a regular basis. So if you have a new educator in your county or maybe an educator who isn't real up to date on the project that you're teaching, please feel free to send me an email and let me know what you're looking for. And we can really help to narrow in on where to find that information or maybe what state has some really good curriculum you can use. If you've used all the stuff that we provided to you at your extension office and you're like, I really want to go above and beyond, let me know because there's some states that do really good stuff. If you're looking for ways to enhance your projects, Ohio State has an entire team of people that write curriculum. So they're a great place to start. I don't know if you know a lot about Wyoming, but we literally have 3 people that run our state 4-H office. So for us to sit down and write curriculum is not a very realistic thing for us to do. We just don't have the time or resources like they do in other states. But I would let you know that Ohio State has great stuff. Purdue does really good. And Nebraska has some good things too, plus the National 4-H website. But if you're looking for things, those are great places for you to start. And if you find something that you want to share with everybody else, feel free to email it to me too. And we can look to share that as part of our program that we're doing here too in Wyoming. So we're always looking at our website. And I know if you've been on the website lately, it's a hot mess. And I apologize for that, but we're really working to update it and make it much more user-friendly. So watch for that to happen, hopefully here in the next, before the next 4-H year starts in October. We've been working pretty hard behind the scenes, but it's hard to get, I think we have the most pages of anybody in the whole university. So it's hard to get all those updated to make sure that the best information is provided. So as we close, are there any other questions or concerns or things people want to share about having fun at project meetings? If you haven't had a chance yet, be sure to write your name, first and last name and the county you're from in the chat box so that I can make that record that you were here. So I'm just working on making sure I got everybody that signed in, but feel free to write that in there and stay on. Feel free to ask questions. This once again is recorded, so you can feel free to watch it again or ask for resources or be sure to email me if you have additional questions. Another great group. I really appreciate all of you joining me tonight, and hopefully you don't have to drive anywhere because you do this from home and you have a safe and wonderful evening. So thanks for coming.